Hello and welcome to the LARP News podcast. This is actually a special one for us because we haven't done this in a very long time.
We've not been in the same room and we've not had LARP experiences to talk about.
Yeah, we're face to face now for the first time sitting down recording in such a long time.
Yes.
I think the last one was Empire Day.
Yes.
Which was the spring of 2020. So
it's great to be back. Like just doing this, getting so excited about it. I mean, just give me a hug, buddy, because it's just so good. It's so good.
There it is.
It is so good to be back and having like actual stuff that we can talk about and get and just sharing the same space.
So this is going to be our loose idea for this is that we've been to a couple of player events.
Yes.
Which kind of like happened because E4 or E1 didn't
happen, and that kind of rolled on, and
so we luckily were able to go to, like, it was an absolute privilege going to a couple of player events, and we're going to kind of loosely hang what we did as a kind of narrative for what we're doing here. But warning, we are going to go on tangents.
Yes,
I'm going to be drinking some alcohol. It's going to take an awful long time to talk about, so I would basically expect this to start off excited, then eventually just turn into incoherent ramblings about LARP and life and all of that stuff.
All of it.
So, yeah. So, basically on you for what happens next. Really? Right? I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, so first off, the first thing that really pops into mind, especially when talking about player events, is that we had a event that we were going to go to literally before all of this kicked off. It was going to be an event run by our friend Lanius, played by Callum, from the Crystal Skies in Urizen. They were going to be running an event in a castle, in Newcastle, and it sounded really fucking cool. And you and me were going to go.
LARPing in a castle with your good friends sounds like a real good weekend.
It sounded like a really good time, and it literally then it all started, right? Everything begun, and that obviously got cancelled.
I remember it was at that point in the year where it was like, is it going to be cancelled? And there were question marks, and then it got to a point where I was like, am I going to go? Like, there was that turning point.
And I think everybody felt that, and the right move was made, obviously, to cancel it at that time. Yeah. But it was a real shame, right? But then it was one of those things we thought, oh, well, there'll be something later on, and then you started to think, maybe it'll be at this time, maybe it'll be in September. Mm-hmm. And obviously, things have rolled on where, obviously, for very, very sensible reasons, haven't obviously happened.
Like, we're going to bitch and moan about it. Completely understand, actually agree with all the decisions.
Yes.
Even the events that we went to, we had to be like pretty militant about people doing flow tests before they went.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff.
Everybody as well was really good about that, because we put out, we'll get to, the first event was like 35 people, and the second event there was like 129 people, and to get like that many people to all participate in taking tests and being responsible. But everybody was fantastic.
Do you know what?
I'm so proud.
We shouldn't mention it anymore.
No,
in the podcast. That's it. We're done. We're not going to mention the dreaded thing that's affecting all of our lives for 1 minute more on this. Fuck that. We're going to continue on with some positive vibes with LARP.
Well, also, and then talk about positive things. Just the way the community came together in so many different ways. Like I'm thinking like the LARP raffles that were run, which were incredibly supportive, and what a great initiative.
Like I did online LARPs as well, which were really fun. We've played a lot of D&D in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Ian, I don't know about you, but I feel like I want to RP so bad now. I feel like I may not have been in the gym working out. In fact, I've gained weight, right? But what I've actually been doing is I've been pressing those RP like muscles, up and down,
reps on the old
once
RP
a week. Repping it up, like getting like characters going, accents, backstories.
The Dave man is getting big. He's getting huge.
Yeah, look at the muscles. Look at his RP muscles.
Like all of that, right? And the aspiration to do that as well.
Yeah,
is like another aspect to it, like wanting to push the pedal on a few things.
It's been. In fact, it's been wonderful.
It has been wonderful. Very fortunate with the D&D campaign we have and the players that we have as well. That's a huge benefit. But another thing that
we've also been working on a secret project, which is going to be released at some point. I don't know, probably over the long dark, but we'll keep you posted about that. But please help us support it, because it's always weird starting a new project.
And it's quite experimental for us. And I think it's going to be good fun, hopefully. So do
keep an eye out for that.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I'll try and plug the hell out of it.
But no, one of the major positives that I think came from it as well was the fact that we were all still able to, in a way, attend songs and stories. And the virtual songs and stories, I thought, was such a good thing,
mate.
Such a good thing.
Oh my god! A whole bunch of memories just came flooding back.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, where do you want to start? So basically, a few people online have been like a few key Navaris, a couple of friends of ours. I don't want to go through everyone because I'm going to miss people off. But a lot of like people that we know and a lot of other people we don't know. But like Navaring the hell out of it, basically. And bear in mind, like over those events, I don't want to bring it up, but it was quite emotional, wasn't it?
Super emotional.
So. But then to see the absolute heavyweights, like I was involved in a couple of them, and just to see the running order and see the absolute like Empire's greatest hits, like the absolute
everyone turned
champs
up, right?
coming out, just to be Captain Prospero in the mix. Do you know what I mean? Like just awesome storytellers, singers, Rusty Compass laying down the heat. I mean, God damn.
I mean, and like Sam and. Edwin,
Mate, this is why you shouldn't start.
We shouldn't list
because you end up missing people off.
But the wealth of talent is one thing.
But what we should do, Ian, is talk about ourselves, which is the important thing.
Be super indulgent about it.
I did one. I did recorded,
yes,
and one I did live,
yes,
and. Man, it's nerve-wracking.
You did storytellings, didn't you?
Yeah, stories. Yeah. So I've been like developing a couple of different bits. One story that I made for the Empire Day, and that was like I'm developing that.
Yeah.
So that's that's definitely my kind of like signature, I think.
Yeah, I think that's your piece, right?
Yeah.
That's where you are now, that's your piece. I think you'll come up with more, and I think you'll do better as well as you go.
And I did another one about how I got my ship.
Yeah, that was a good one. I enjoyed that, actually.
Yeah, that one needs a lot of work, though, but I like the idea of it.
It's got the right ideas. You know how you have... So when you do a story, there's often that part in the story, especially in an oral telling, right, a performance story that you're delivering of a story. I think there's one thing that you kind of notice, a pattern of this idea of like a semi-repetition of things. It has that almost like that sort of Three Little Pigs style reiteration of the point that is broken into the story. So you have that idea of the moral will come in. You kind of know what the moral is after the first event, and then it's kind of laid in. You know what the punchline is. It almost builds up to it.
You know what I felt like? I feel like the way I tell stories is there needs to be a lot of... I like audience interaction, okay? Not everybody likes this, and I would generally have as a rule, like, not to do this.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm definitely going to ask questions and prompt the crowd, which was what made Songs and Stories virtually so difficult.
Yes.
Because you have no feedback of any faces or any sounds from the crowd, so you're literally just there for, like... and I went over my time so badly. Like, I think I had 5 minutes, and I spoke for 11. It was like, ugh.
Yeah, but you'll hone it down. I mean, it's like the thing is, taking a story, by the way, so bold. I think it's.
I would love to be able to sing. I would love to be able to sing. Can we talk about your stuff now, Ian? Cause...
Yeah. So I've written a few songs. I've got like a duet that's kind of written, which I'm pretty. It was actually the first thing I ever wrote, and I'm pretty pleased with that, actually. So that's it's loosely about this kind of physic.
But we haven't had a chance to perform it yet.
Yeah, so we shouldn't.
So you shouldn't even talk about it.
But I had that, and I've had a couple of other songs that I've been working on as well. But one song I wrote was a song about the different constellations in the Empire, and
would you describe it as a lullaby?
Yeah, so the idea behind it is it's the lullaby, if you like, that Talus's mother sang to him. So that's like his sort of memory of her, and the idea of like passing that on, because it's like it's an Urazeni thing, and the idea of like returning that to the people, like that this is something that was like a lullaby from the time before the fall kind of thing.
It's so cool, and you go through like the constellations, right?
Yes, the idea is like going through the different constellations and kind of try and tie them into a kind of a narrative, in a sense, like a loose kind of moral narrative, with the idea being that like that the ending is like an idea lives forever. But I can't even remember it. I've choked. But like the idea is that like just that you carry this idea of taking a stand on an ideal, right, and following it through.
Yeah, I think that the important thing is here that you went down a rabbit hole on this. Yeah. It's very personal to you. Yeah. It's really sweet. It's like it's these blossoming parts of your personality that I didn't even know were there. And when you did the performance, Ian, okay.
So I stumbled quite a bit actually in the performance.
Let me tell the story.
Yeah.
Let me tell the story.
Yeah.
I'm like so nervous for you because I know how much it means to you, and I know how like nervous you are, and I'm just like through the internet, I'm just willing you. Oh, Ian, I hope it goes well, buddy. Like I'm like there like on tenterhooks with it.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to our friend Merlin at the same time, and I was just like chatting to her, and I was saying how worried I was, and then you started, and it was so good, and then you were like, it's going well, and then you stumbled on it because you were like, oh no, it's actually going well, and then you stumbled,
what happened.
and then you were like, oh no, I fucked up, and then it was like, then you kind of like you rallied, but man, it was like really fucking emotional. Like it's making me emotional talking about it. To watch your best friend get up there, perform this something like so close to his heart, and it was just like I knew you were there, just your brain eating itself in worry and concern, but. Fuck, man, it was so good.
Like the most joyous part about it was like the idea that when I performed it and when I stumbled on it, I knew that I would perform it again and I would do it better, and I knew that immediately. So like, and the idea that actually like that level of like desire to improve is actually in me, and discovering that was like a really valuable thing. That's like a profoundly
LARP,
valuable
baby.
thing.
That's LARP, right?
Like yeah,
it's
it challenged me in all the right ways I needed as a human being,
but you know what?
It's been great.
But what was weird as a viewer, it's that like it was that vulnerability and you putting yourself out there that made it so special. Yeah. That's what made it one of the best performances. It wasn't because it was the singing or anything else. It was because of like how you approached it and like the genuine feels. Like people were in chat and you could see the feels popping off. I was in tears.
People were super supportive. Like actually, so like because bear in mind there were some insanely talented people at Songs and Stories, and because I actually followed on. So from I think the performance before me was a storyteller who was actually I think it was like his first time telling this story. And he did an incredible job. It was a really good. It had all of those beats.
The lineup is so strong.
Yes,
there's no like, oh man, I hope I get to go after them. You know what I mean? There's always like, what I got to follow Rusty Compass? Are you fucking joking?
It's fucking like insane. Yeah,
like no one wants to follow Rusty Compass, right? Yeah. Like my god.
But maybe if I can do, you know what I mean? I think like the community make it such a welcoming atmosphere.
Yeah,
that like. Of course you're scared, right? Of course you're nervous and the adrenaline's up. But the destruction of self that can occur through failure is so lessened.
That's real, man.
No, but it's so lessened by the community and you know what I mean? Just the level of support, like all the way through.
The thing I would worry about would be, like, say if an individual wasn't part of the community and they came on, they did a performance, right? And they might feel, like, isolated. Like, that moment afterwards, you're like horrified at your own performance, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit of honest feedback from people around you, and then sometimes a wall of positive feedback to actually make you feel like there was good stuff to your performance.
I actually really think, and I think it showed and bore out during Virtual Stories, was how there were a number of people who were new players, literally hadn't been to an event and performed and got amazing support and performed incredibly, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think there's always that parachute there of the community being awesome and super supportive, and that's how the whole vibe of Songs and Stories is. So it's such a valuable space to have.
Songs and Stories is like a microcosm of what LARP is for me, where it's like it's about giving it a go, and in a safe environment where you're just removed from yourself to be able to really go for parts of yourself that you don't really explore in the real world,
dude,
right?
Totally. Like, I think that's profoundly true.
Come to Songs and Stories and join Navarre. They're the best nation. Right.
Yes.
Let's move on. Let's keep this fucking train moving in. Okay.
So I guess another big thing that occurred was obviously with the long dark occurring. There's only so many things you could do, so we decided to do some crafting, and I got pretty hard out into crafting. Over all of this, like I've got to the stage where like I legitimately think I can look at a thing and say, yeah, I can make that, and that I'm going to bodge it up and make mistakes and learn from mistakes along the way. But I feel confident enough now where I can be like, oh, I want to make this thing for myself, and it's a long challenge, but I can do it. And it's making me think about what I want to do with that. Now
it does seem to be. I've met a lot of crafters recently, and people have been doing some incredible work over the Long Dark. You came up with a design for Lamlar armor, which, with the rules change, is almost clairvoyant in how you predicted what it potentially might mean, right?
Yeah, so it was it's. I won't bore everyone with details, but if you go onto the website, you better actually find probably some links to the streams that we did.
Is that on Facebook?
It's on Facebook, but there's also
on Facebook.
And the YouTube thing. But we did a couple of videos, basically, a couple of streams, basically. Of us crafting together. Some I did just myself, and then some later ones I did with you, where Merlin. I was teaching you this. And Merlin, I was teaching you this technique, right, and talking about it. And there's some quite good, fun videos. But yeah, so I got into doing that, and the fact that I think it was good for you, right, to have a go at it, and you still got it as something that you're quite close to finishing.
Oh my God, it's so close to finishing right now. It just needs. I think basically instead of what we could be doing right now, instead of recording, we could be strapping that bad boy up and finishing it. Yeah, but we're not going to do that. We're going to record instead.
No, I think you're basically a weekend away from finishing it.
Yeah, I reckon if we just hung out for an evening and just put on a few Fast and Furious movies, we could probably get through it, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's literally like a leisurely weekend of finishing it. Yeah. That's where you are. Yeah. But no, so but I think that was really good for you, right? I felt like something that you were kind of... It's a challenge, right? To take it on.
I wish I'd finished it, basically. And I hadn't finished it before the first event that we got to. Yeah. Just because I didn't really understand the finishing work and how much actual work there would be. Yeah. I was all about making plates, basically, and then was just like... aha, now I can just magic this into armor, right? And it's like not quite that.
Just really quickly so people know, Lamlar armor is basically a series of plates that follow a tessellating pattern in a certain direction. And they're basically layered up to make a form of armor. And I've come up with a way of using sort of foam backing and leather fronting to make like these thick leather plates that are very cheap.
And they're light, and they're just excellent. And if they did that, we haven't really managed to stress test them yet for obvious reasons, but they seem to hold up incredibly well.
I have actually. I stress tested my monstering kit, which is made using it, and it worked very well.
And I think if it isn't right, then you can probably swap them out fairly easily.
That's the other good thing. Like Lamlar, the basic gist of it, and to really, because not to sort of crack on it for too long, but the basic gist is that it's not difficult to make. It's very time consuming, right? That's the challenge, right? You're literally going to be there cracking out like 500, 600 plates, and but that takes time and effort.
It can break a man.
It's a real job, and that's just the beginning of the job, right? That's the hard part. But even after that, then there's the thinky part where you've got to think about how you're going to actually do the sides and the rest of it. So it's a challenge to make, right? It's an endurance challenge to make a set of it, but you can do it extremely cheap. By my reckoning,
yes, extremely cheap.
It's not taxing in a way where you can't do it, right?
And you've not just made one set of armor, Ian. You've also made monstering armor.
Yeah, so I've actually at this stage I was going through it. So I made my very first suit of armor for the very first event I went to, which that whole thing was that plated jacks kind of style thing. Yeah. Then I made obviously my steel Lamlar armor. Yeah. And now I've made an armor, a suit of armor for my monstering character using this technique. And then I've made a suit now for Talis as well.
And that's even fancier.
And I made your armour as well. So I've made, in total, I've made 5 different pieces of armour now. And yours was a crazy thing. I literally put that together in, literally a few days. So that was a real kind of cool challenge. But yeah, so it's kind of got me to the stage where I can kind of do things, and obviously Long Dark afforded a hell of a lot of time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's been really good. And I think, so there's 2 things that combine into this. I guess the first one to touch on, which it was kind of interesting, was the change to the armor rules and how that affects the game.
New armor rules, the way things, to summarize, I think I'm right in saying the way it looks is what it is. Yes. Whereas the other rules used to be there was a separation between materials, right? So the poly plate, for example, counted as medium rather than heavy. Exactly. But now if it looks like heavy, it is heavy.
It is heavy. It's I know it's one of those things where there's never a good time to deliver a rule change like that, and I'm very sympathetic to that point. And as someone who is both an archer and someone who wears heavy armor that they made themselves, and was like the most insane project they've taken on, and most challenging project they've taken on, and then to have that kind of changed in a way. But I'm completely in support of the change.
Yeah, I actually am as well. I think it's like obviously I cry in mage armor because I've just become one of the best targets. Also, like, archers are really upset, so that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I
like,
think
fuck
like
those people.
I think actually everyone's taken it really well. I think like obviously if you've just gone out, and I think there were a couple of people who obviously inevitably fall into a category like this where you've literally just gone, you've paid money for a suit of heavy armor, right? And it's not cheap. Like, and all of a sudden the rules have changed for the game that you're planning to wear it for. It you know, it sucks, right? But like it's one of those things where, as I said, it's never going to be a good time for it, and I think it's for the betterment of the game.
Yeah, it's going to make it's going to make accessibility better.
Basically,
I think it's like archery's going to be a lot more of a harder job now.
Yeah, and it should be.
Yeah, agreed.
It should be.
Agreed.
That's how I feel about it. And like, I'm not even that good, right? But like, it makes the game funner for me.
I will be curious, and this is just me shooting the shit at this stage, about how much longer battles will last for with the addition of heavy armor and people not being able to be impaled.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think people will make predictions and they'll be surprised by the number of them that are proven wrong.
As everything, I always just find because of the large populace at Anvil, you're like, God, I wonder what these effects will have.
It's actually a profound effect, and even the interesting thing with
it's a profound decision, Ian.
Oh my God, there's literally there's a meme part I wanted to like. I'm not even. Oh, that brings up cringy memories of me. At event 1, but anyway, oh gosh, oh my word, you literally brought back like a kind of a hazy memory.
There's nothing wrong with saying the title of a thing.
In a LARP, I did that.
Yeah,
oh, it's such a shocking moment. But what was I saying?
Rule changes,
yeah. So yeah, it's just better.
Yeah, I think it's going to be better.
It's just better.
We'll see.
And yeah, so anyway, so the result of that was obviously to sort of think about making a set of armor for Talus. So I made some monstering armor anyway. That was before this, and then I made a suit for Talus. And one thing that I think has been a kind of running gag with Talus, I suppose, as a character, has been this idea of being a bit of a fancy pants.
Well, we've told you that on numerous occasions.
Yes, right. But the interesting thing was, like, bear in mind, this started when, like, I was by no means a fancy pants, really. Like, in terms of if you compared my kit to, like...
I think if you compared your kit to the best people in the game, yes, no, not fancy. But if you compared to the rest of the Ashbourne...
Yes, that's what I mean. Relative to the Ashbourne, he was a fancy pants, right? But the interesting thing was, like, I quite liked that as, like, a character trait. And because I had this whole kind of dual heritage thing, it let me kind of explore it in an interesting way. So I had this kind of idea of leaning pretty hard into the idea. I think it's fair to say that I've leaned pretty hard into it.
I think it's fair to say you did do that because you are... I would say then this isn't... I think this is a fair statement. You might be in the run... You're easily within the runnings to be the fancy-est looking Navarre.
Yeah,
like I think that's a fair assessment to make at this stage. You are like from head to toe. You are greens and golds and silks and sashes and gilded gold leaves on everything. Yes. Where there can be. You're like a Russian, like that.
Dude, I have
very flamboyant.
I have a crazy headband with like these kind of gold and green leaves that go past it.
Yeah, you're not getting lost at night, right?
It's
if you went missing, like people would be able to find you, like because of the gold glittering off you type thing. Actually, you're not that. It's not like gold and glitter. It's actually quite like.
I think
it's not like.
It's not
outrageous.
Yes.
I think it's still on brief.
Yes.
I think that's for the academics to figure out.
I think it interestingly walks certain lines, but that's the point of the kit. The kit is because I'm not like a naturally kind of like a provocative kind of exerting kind of character that's maybe going to leap out at you just by my presence. I'm not quite there at that level of confidence. But the costume then is it helps me get there.
I would say you've always been fairly understated in the way you've dressed, which is like, it's the same thing with singing. It's the same thing with like the way you're dressing now. Like these are all like, what I would say, like you can draw directly from LARP and how they've kind of affected you to kind of explore different parts of your personality. And you're doing that in spades, basically, and it's great to watch.
I've loved it as a space, actually, to really kind of just get into that whole aspect, because like I have no desire to like dress like that in real life. But
you say
no,
that
I
now.
say that I just enjoy.
You'll be dressed like Rick James in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like absolutely outrageous.
That'd be amazing. No, but like
see that you're interested. You like the idea.
No, I'm interested.
Get a perm. You'll absolutely love it.
No, so I did a bunch of stuff. I'll blast through it because it sounds at this point it sounds very arrogant.
We should make this very brief, by the way, because a lot of these can just be summed up with a photo on Facebook.
Yeah,
right?
so I did a headband. I've done some gloves, which are like green gloves with like these golden leaves on them, and then they've got these kind of arm warmer things that kind of tie into that. I did a sash. This was a crazy one. I did that took me ages. Again, this sounds really arrogant, by the way. I apologise if this sounds really arrogant. I guess I am actually just legitimately actually quite proud of myself with a lot of it. So, and it's one of those things where, like, you know...
You're not making this any shorter.
No. So, anyway, it's this sash with these kind of thistles like going up it. One of the other things that I really wanted to get done, and this was having a belt made, which Doug made for me. And that was the other really cool thing, actually, was... working with other people who can do things that I can't to a standard that I want. So Doug was one of those people to make me this belt that just looks phenomenal. It really sells the whole... It ties the whole soft kit together. And then the thing, which is the thing that I've always wanted, and is the most ridiculously self-indulgent sort of LARP expense I can consider making, was I wanted a cloak made that is like... the full kind of talus kind of thing, where it's like purple on the inside with like the constellations and beading, like green on the outside with like the Ashbourne logo and gold, like crazy stuff slashing up the front. And Andy from the Orcs Planet and Armchair Armories is making it, and it's just I'm so like I went for a day.
He hasn't finished it yet, though, right?
No, but I've seen pictures of it in progress. It looks absolutely amazing. Andy, if you're actually ever listening to this, like the emotions of seeing something like that coming together and just being involved in the journey is actually a privilege. Like I can't even begin to explain.
Their stuff is so good that I can't imagine what like it's
so talented, like outrageously talented. So I went over there just to really try and blast through this. Because I'm just going to gush the whole way, by the way. But like, I went over to see Andy basically at Armchair Armories, took measurements basically, I went over materials, and he showed me this design for like the shape of the cloak that was completely different to what I had considered before, and immediately blew me away. So it's basically like an Arya Stark style cloak, which has this kind of slit at one side for like the sword drawer. So it's more like a jacket than a cloak almost.
Okay.
It just it looks so swish that I cannot. I'm out. It's just so crazy. So it's like the way that I wear the sash will actually be part of that now. I'm so excited for it. Anyway, but Andy, like it looks amazing. I can't wait. Please take as much time as you need, because I know you're super busy, and I love you.
I think this is a really good experiment to see if the new kit curse is real or not. Because if anyone is calling that thing down, it's you right now. And it's like, yeah, I'm worried about you.
I made like this scabbard recently as well for like this sword that I got.
Dead man.
Yeah.
Oh, dead man walking.
But anyway, so that's
dead man walking.
So I really apologise if that sounded like super arrogant and stuff, but I hope you just get the vibe.
Ian, you're forgiven.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I think are we at the point where we can actually do?
Yeah, so we can do like pre-event of like the first player event that we went to, and the interesting thing was that basically Empire was obviously cancelled, and this thing was put together in 4 weeks by Tom, Caitlin, and Phil. And just basically, and other, like there's others as well. But it was a huge.
When the news came out of there not being an event
at
Anvil that year, it was like the fucking torches being burnt in Gondor, right? Like, it was like
the beacons are lit.
Yeah, the beacons are fucking lit, man. And like you could just see people being like crews being formed, like ideas of dates, locations. Like it was really fun to watch. These people are like friends of ours as well. So it's like we were. Dude, looking back now, how unbelievably lucky are we to know the people that we know and have the opportunities that we've had to be so close to events is crazy, dude.
So recently, I've been quite into watching some like documentaries on esports teams and like their journey of going from a starting position and sort of how they became. There's a really good one on OG for Dota, but like one part of that is like this. The whole undercurrent of what I think we're going to talk about is, I think, a really beautiful and incredible story of a group of people coming together to do a LARP together and then do another LARP that was even bigger and more grandiose and everything on both occasions in really short spaces of time. These are people who haven't really worked together before, right? These are people who've literally just come together from the community to make like these events that are amazing, and we had a fantastic time.
We should just get to it. So it's our friends Tom, Caitlin, Phil, and you were kind of involved in some plotty stuff.
In the first one, I was a lot more involved,
and also Robert, who makes wonderful swords and is now making wonderful creature stuff. Basically,
ridiculously talented.
These are all people that we're really close with. Oh, the company's going to be called the whatever they call themselves, group. Is Eerie Light events, right? Yeah. So we're going to fair warning, we're going to completely kiss their asses. They absolutely nailed it. It was awesome. So but we do know them obviously.
I had to do a bunch of stuff. So
the event was actually for August, right? Right. Yeah. It was going to be before the event, and we were going to have a kind of like. The idea was it was going to be like an Nymphari event, but it was kind of going to be a lot of people that we knew, kind of like a lot more smaller. I think they were aiming for how many was it? 50 people?
No, it was 35 people.
35, right?
Yeah, and so it was small scale. Although actually, when we were there, it felt 35 is a good number.
35 is an excellent.
It's a brilliant number for like that size and scale of LARP.
And just with like everyone was just chill and cool and down for it.
The camp basically broke down into, there was essentially the Ashbourne Entwined Paths camp that we kind of had, and then there's the sort of the Eerie Light camp, if you like, which was down the other side, and then there was this kind of space between the two. And it kind of made for this really interesting thing where you could walk. And there was a couple of other sort of smaller sort of tents and stuff as well. But if you like, they were the two main social grouping spots.
Yeah.
But it made for that really cool thing where it's like you can walk and you've got the distance of the walk. And that's actually often quite a wonderful thing in LARP, is actually walking from some RP or some sing or whatever, like one vista, and travelling to the other. You have this sort of reflection time as you walk there, and then you can go and have another set of conversations and interactions with this other place.
There are also like just people with tents, right? So it's like you could hang out. I think it was a really so. Let's just quickly go through your kind of prep work for it before.
So I did actually have a fair bit to do. So I decided to become part of doing plot and basically doing props was my two major things, or sort of resources. So. We were making this in a few weeks with the assumption, really, that it probably wasn't going to be sanctioned. We were going to try and have it sanctioned. Loosely told, being sanctioned is basically the things that occur at the event are canon.
It's basically sanctioned by Profound Decisions, right? So Profound Decisions take a look at the event that you're running, check out the storyline, check out how you're going to be doing things.
Yeah.
We weren't privy to that conversation, but it's a to and fro, like it's a negotiation almost, you know.
Yeah, and they can loosely feed into the plot, right? They obviously they normally get people to do fairly small scale things.
They definitely can.
Yeah.
Spoilers for later.
Yeah.
Yes. But the
So this one was one of the provisions that we were. It probably wasn't going to be sanctioned, and I ran up with that right to the way. So this made me kind of try a few different things in that space. Then I thought I'll do sort of fake resources with this idea that obviously players have resources they can spend to do things. Healers use herbs to heal. Other types of spells can be cast using mana and so on. There's other resource cards and things available in the game, but for an event like that, especially working on the assumption that it wouldn't be sanctioned, you don't really want people just sort of using stuff that had no actual ultimate effect. That was a fear of mine anyway. So I thought I'd make these sort of fake resources that all kind of had quirky side effects and things that were like slightly like dodgy Liao, basically. Different types of mana and different types of herbs that all had RP effects, basically.
And you made them like legit, right? Like, so you could have like, you tear them open and look at the effects that they had and all of that jazz, right? So they were like basically like quite literally knockoff versions of 2D products, right?
Exactly, right. They had like the idea that you could...
Designed to be, right?
Yes, designed to be that, right? And people kind of knew up front that these were all kind of like slightly dodgy. And the funnest part of that, we'll get to it later though, was like...
Well, don't say now.
Yeah, no, we'll get there later. So I did that. The other thing I did was traumatic wound cards, which I massively have to thank somebody who... has been on the podcast, and that's Eleanor from the hospital episode.
Yeah,
I basically got in touch with like, I need traumatic wounds, help, right? Like I have no experience writing them. Can you possibly help me?
She's awesome. Like if you haven't listened to the hospital episode, go now.
It's amazing.
Enjoy it.
It's better than this episode probably.
Yeah, she's amazing. And like the detail that they go into and how they approach that healing game. I can only imagine that the advice was pretty good.
Oh, dude! So this is literally what happened. It was like immediate response was just like, I don't have anything on me, but I'll have a look. And then like within like 2 hours, I had like a full list of everything I needed. It was a lifesaver. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, so that was one thing. The other thing I wanted to do was a visions pack. So if you take things like Goose Whisper and stuff, you can have like visions. So I'd fed that mechanic into some of the herbs. So if you take
spoilers,
you'd have visions. But that's why I made a visions pack. And then basically the other thing was just doing like plot. So part of the plot was we had ideas, me and Phil and Tom and Caitlin, about where we kind of wanted the plot to go, what kind of event we were going to try and run. Mm-hmm. And it was it got more combat-y as it went on. And things got fed in. We got a bit more ambitious with the ideas. Originally, it was literally just going to be a complete social event, right, with just some like loose RP chatty stuff. But actually, we ended up doing a bunch of other things.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And the other cool part of that, which is a massive feed into sort of, for me, pretty crazy event later in the event, was the idea of actually asking the players, is there any rumor about you, essentially, that you want put into the player packs and seeded? So I did this like an open post to everybody. Some people got back in touch, and this basically meant that everybody in their player packs got like it was like a note. This is what you know kind of card, basically.
Yeah.
And certain people knew certain things.
We should. Yeah.
But that was a real fun thing to do. But the idea that people actually offered up things for their characters to be seeded into these player packs was so cool. Such a cool thing to have in the plot.
It added so much spice, right? Like.
We'll get to it.
Yeah,
but
because we don't want to reveal too much about what happened at the event, because like basically Caitlin is like really good at doing like organization stuff, right? So is Tom, as like helping her out doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
Phil is all over that game like crazy, right? And then you came in as like a person to help out.
Yeah,
along with
I think that's fair. I think
stuff.
it was prop making, especially in the first event, and sort of helping being involved in the production a bit more, but then also tying together the plot was probably my main thing in the first event.
It's like any good crew.
Yeah.
The crew, I use the word specifically, is like there's a vibe to it where everyone brings their own stuff, and it's like what individually you wouldn't be able to do it, but with the like the fucking A team, right? You all have your specialized shit, and then you just nail it as a group together.
So doing plot, which is the thing that I can talk about more, is the way it happened was Phil stepped up to the plate really early on to sort of help out with this, and then I said I'd help out, and then he basically fired me this draft of what his ideas were for the encounters that could take place, And these were like combat encounter ideas as well. So that really opened up the possibilities. So that's not something I thought we were maybe going to consider. But they were like combat encounters and how the sort of the loose story behind them, right? And then I did some edits on that with him on certain things. And then I just sort of decided I'd tie a bunch of different plot hooks actually into the RP of the camp to help sort of seed where those things and sort of foreshadow them a little bit, you know. And these things were super minor, by the way, but it was quite interesting to be involved in the process.
I'm holding back discussing what effects these decisions had because they're so spoilery. I don't want to do it, basically.
I think we should caveat a little bit, and this will probably transmit across all the episodes, I'm imagining, is that I think it's fair to say we've entered the area of game and plot where we have to be a little bit careful about what we say for like IC and sort of fairness of IC kind of reasons, and I hope you guys will understand that.
Yeah, I'm up to some shit. You're up to some shit. We're making friends and having conversations that are like really interesting. That actually have world effects. Like there are loads of stuff that were like I would love to go into. Like we're probably going to bump into some of them. I'm going to try and do my best. I think we did a caveat before actually when we spoke about a few of this stuff. But...
yeah, I think like that. It's you know what? I think we probably will end up talking about a lot of it. But just to fair warning, there's probably some things we may shy away from a bit, and it's for those reasons. Just because
but this is a two-way street, right?
We're enjoying the game.
Like as a listener, and this is something like these events have been really, really cool about is like if you are a long-time listener to the podcast and you've interacted with any of us over this time, like it's been so cool. Everyone's been the best.
Incredible.
Like, I've never felt like I've been targeted for something that someone knows about me through the podcast, right? Like when it's just been. Everyone that we've come into contact with is just really, really chill and really, really cool. So a lot of worries that we have about discussing games is like that. But we also have to keep like other people's games. And I don't want to give up all of my game because there's shit popping off.
The reality is, right, that like there is that aspect where we need to keep those things to ourselves because they're part of what will essentially make the next set of stories we'll have to tell.
Some of them are quite personal.
Some of them are very personal, yeah. But no, so with that said... I think we should crack in.
Okay. Do you want to have a break now and then come back and we just smash out the first one? How are you feeling? Are you poised? Do you want to get stuck into it?
I think we can do Thursday and getting there, and then I think that kicks us into Friday when everything kind of really happens. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Because I think Fridays
I dig it.
Where it is. So going in for Thursday, and this is something I think we've learned.
We should talk about the location.
Yeah.
First, it's in like the Brecon Beacons in Wales. Okay, that's a long ass way away.
A long way,
and it's also like it's one of those places where if you drive for a couple of hours to get there, then the last like 20 miles is like 45 minutes because every single road is like a B road. The roads got fucking crazy on the way there. Yeah. Like I drove with Bungle, Bungle drove me, I should say.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bungle. And we were like, I was literally sitting there going, I don't know if Ian's going to make it.
Well, I have to say, like, because I think this is like, I think it's safe to say I'm probably the least confident driver of us all. Right?
I would think that's a
fair
statement. Yeah,
right. But like, the fact that like you were kind of like there's that worry of like, fuck, would I make it? Right, like because it was pretty crazy. But actually,
legit, that isn't even me being like
no, it's true,
hyperbolic. Like there was a like a U-turn that fell down a cliff on the other side, and we came into like we not bumped into, but met a car coming the other way at that point.
Yeah.
And we were like, we literally can't reverse around that thing. And this poor driver had to she had a terrible time trying to reverse back and trying to fit in this little gap.
Yeah.
It was
sketchy, right?
Like, oh my god, my butt was clenched the whole time. It was like one of those like, oh my god, this is how cars get wrecked. And then if you're going to try and get the AA out there is another like, and it just turns into this giant incident, like, and blocks a whole like. It's fucking in the arse end of nowhere, okay? But the Brecon Beacons, for those that aren't from the UK, are glorious.
So
they're like
stunning.
They're beautiful, like hill and mountain ranges, lusciously green.
I'd honestly never been there before, and
staggering.
I wasn't aware that type of vista was available in the UK.
Yeah,
it was like because I've seen different. I've been up north a lot and Scotland, Newcastle, northeast, and there's that kind of there's kind of fairly stark but beautiful landscapes that you can get up there. Mm-hmm. This was something quite different.
It was so like
it was a glorious day.
It was
as well.
Fantasy as well, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind
rolling
of like
hills.
Herkinia. I actually got a vibe for Herkinia, right?
Yeah,
like
it felt like it. It felt like glorious rolling hills,
yeah,
beautiful
old,
sunshine,
and like just so those. And we were basically camped in like there were some woods.
Yeah,
down the
so
boat, but old ass woods, with a stream going through it.
It was the Wildman Woods campsite. And the setting, the location was just glorious.
And then the main camp area where everyone was like a side of a hill, and then there was a flat bed.
So it was on a slope, which was a little bit of a problem. But actually, the actual site itself and how we had it all laid out was just fantastic and perfect for the size that we did.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't think the site was perfect by any stretch of the imagination through lots of different reasons, but it served our purposes incredibly well. Yeah. And it was also like nice just to go out to that area of the world and see all of that stuff with your homies. It's just really nice. Yeah. But
the other thing with it all, and as I was going to at the beginning talk about, was the idea of going on Thursday. And this is something that we did, the previous actual LARP that we went to, one of the best things we did was going on a Thursday. And the
Thursdays are awesome.
Yeah, if you can go on Thursday, I would strongly recommend it. Mm-hmm. Just because that extra day to get there, drop everything off, set everything up. So you got your tent, you got everything up. All your gear is ready to go.
But dude, an extra day is so much more than just an extra day. Yes. It's like, it's an extra day off work, which is fine, but food, you got to keep that shit fresh for an extra day.
Yeah.
You're going to be extra stinky if they don't have like shower blocks, change your clothes. Yeah. All of those things are like, and also just sheer fucking exhaustion, right? Like, it's sometimes it's hard to get some sleep.
None of us had planned for especially the first event, the level of
debauchery.
Celebration, and I was going to use the word debauchery, but I pulled back.
It is
but
debauchery. There's no other way to put it than having a whole bunch of LARPers not see each other for that long, especially a lot of our friends and us. Like we're party boys. We like to party. Do you know what I mean? Like we have a good time.
It was genuinely very emotional. Like that Thursday get together,
the family of like just. Well, what's crazy about our banner and the people that are within it is I get to see these people very rarely, if ever, outside of LARP.
Yeah.
But I'm so close to them.
Yes.
Like, it is big, manly, mega love hugs. You know what I mean? There's little where you hold each other for that little extra second that isn't appropriate and you just let each other know. Maybe a little whisper in the ear as you're pulling away. Just like, great to see you, bud. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love you, man. Like, it's that sort of like love. Like, it's so good, bro. Like, it was. Yeah, I loved seeing everyone. I feel so lucky to have them in my lives, and just also I think like try not to mention it too much. Everyone's had a shit time.
Yeah.
No one's had a good time. Yeah. Everyone's having a shit time, and I think a lot of people are trying to be very, very brave, and don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, woe is me to your friends when you see them. But man, there was like. Mega feels coming off people seeing each other.
There's been a lot of struggle, right? A lot of struggle, and I mean, you've had it for sure. You know, I've had it definitely too. Yeah. It's just like it's been tough at points. So life has really kicked me in the testicles over the last couple of years. Dude.
But LARP has been, and the friendships around it has been like
life changing. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what it would be like without it, man. Like it's so good.
I mean, we've spoken about this a bunch of times, but actually, more so than ever, like the value of having taken on doing LARP and the podcast and stuff. Yeah. The value to me is, I mean, it is genuinely life changing.
Is it too early for philosophical conversations? We'll get to that. There's more beer to be drunk before we get to Molo. We got absolutely fucking shit faced. To take away the romance of what happened. What happened that night was
my word,
a group of people that we were like
we ran out of beer.
We
ran out. So take this.
All of us were like
we all had agreed to go to this place for several days.
Yeah,
and had bought a certain amount of alcohol to sustain us for that many days.
I had bought far more alcohol than I could drink. Well, usually I would imagine, right? Like my usual. This is an excessive amount of booze. Most of the conversation was about when we first saw each other was, don't worry about a thing, lads. I got the alcohol sorted. Everyone felt like Billy Big Nuts, right? Until that Thursday night came in.
Thursday night. And this is not to say, by the way, that just getting smashed is responsible in any way. I don't. I have to throw the caveat like that. Like,
yeah, I think. Do you know what? I hate the idea of anyone listening to this and like being encouraged to drink because we don't do it.
No,
this is not.
All of it was. Yeah, it's the wrong move.
And I would say, I think all I want to say is a very brief moment. Like, actions have consequences. And Callum knows that, right? No, Callum knows that, and that's all that we need to say about it.
Word.
All actions have consequences.
Oh, my word.
Like, if you want to do that to yourself, and we were like lighting a cigarette, which we then set fire to our Harley Davidson, which we are riding at over 100 miles an hour off a cliff into a burning fucking Viking longboat. Okay, that was a sort of attitude that we were in. Was just to the hell with tomorrow. Today we drink, and drink we did.
Jeez, I was the thing is because I actually don't drink, right? Like pretty much, and it was one of those things where I was drunk after 2 beers.
You got that look in your eyes. You got that look in your eyes. You know when you're absolutely shit faced, but you operated within that boundary for like hours and hours and hours, right? Yeah. Like it was. I think we were powered by just the event, the location, our friendship, and it was just, and also meeting new people.
I was literally about to say because the event was roughly about 80%, I would say, people we knew, and probably about 20% people we didn't know, and
maybe more,
but the new players and the players that we hadn't met before and stuff were just so wonderful. I made some like genuine friends.
This is one thing that's kind of cool about a lot of these player events is I kind of just assumed a lot of these would just be players from Empire who had already been to their first Anvil and all that stuff. There are a lot of new players joining the game right now, and they are. God, new players kick ass. They're so fucking good.
So brave.
They're just awesome. They're like out there, they're into everything. They're doing every skirmish, they're screaming, and they're just boom! Like, fuck, they love it so much. The new players that I've come into contact with, like, don't worry about a thing, anyone. The future of LARP is going to kick ass. Like,
so many incredibly talented people. It's so good.
Yeah. Basically, I camped OC.
Yes, that was it. So normally we've always camped IC together.
Yeah.
And I think we've reached the stage where the Bell tent is a difficult proposition with the three of us.
We have too much shit to bring with us, and there's not enough room in the tent, basically.
Yeah.
And also, I quite like Dave's personal quiet time. So
and I can definitely see that. Like, I enjoy being in the Bell tent, and actually with me and Bung in there, it was great.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was. But I think at the second event where we did the three of us, and we'll get there when we get there. But
tangent though.
Yeah.
Kind of want my own tent.
Yeah.
But kind of like the idea of camping OC now. Like,
yeah.
I'm okay with having a space where I can camp OC and then kind of like
visit
sleep,
an IC space.
And then go, but like bring all my LARP stuff to a certain area, or like stuff I need, right? Which isn't actually that much. And then kind of do it that way. Or get my own tent, like... Oh, there's so many questions I have still.
We're going to have to think about a bunch of that stuff.
Dude, money.
All of it.
Money.
All of it.
Right? Like, I ain't winning the lottery tomorrow, so if I do, then you will prepare to be dazzled.
But I have to say, the whole banner coming together and building our camp, it is a really nice space to be in. Like, we've got this awning, we've got all the tents that are close by. I've got these kind of benches with these nice kind of cushions on that kind of... that will accommodate like 6 people. Everybody's got like a bunch of chairs.
Camp, isn't it?
It did really, and I think it actually became like the sort of the hyper social area, if you like, of the thing. And then there was the area like fire as well that you could go to. But it was definitely a hot spot for coming along and sort of talking to a bunch of people and having a great time. So
I think like right.
I think that's really all I've got to say about Thursday. I think we are about to kick into Friday.
We've been talking just for shy of an hour.
Yeah.
And we've barely...
It's not even begun, folks.
We've not even started.
Not even begun.
So if you listen to this, then maybe you should have skipped to the next one. I'm sorry.
I'm assuming everything we just did was very rambly.
Do you know what? I'm just like, I'm kind of in the mood for this. Even talking about how wasted we got on Thursday night is unlocking demons inside of me right now that I just want to go on deeply, like...
There's a lot to be said.
Self-indulgent
There's
rants.
a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said about the whole journey of it.
Man.
So hopefully you've enjoyed or endured this one enough that you'll follow us on the next one.
What comes next is
a lot of fun.
Fucking awesome. So join us next time when we will continue with our story of our player events.
Yeah, LARP shenanigans.
Bye.
We're back.